webinar session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and very good morning to everyone. I am so pleased and honored to have all of you with us today. So let me introduce our speaker for today's session. He is Dr. Akhmad Habibi, a senior lecturer from the Department of Educational Technology, Universitas Jambi, also known as UNJA, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Dr. Habibi, in Indonesia.
Yes, bro.
Yeah, okay. I am so pleased to introduce him to all of you because he is one of the most successful he has been publishing a lot of things in journals. So I am so happy to introduce him to you. He holds a PhD from Universiti Malaya in 2020, and he has been publishing in a lot of reputable journals, and 7 of those article journals that he published was actually during his PhD study. Okay, so today I hope that you will learn something from him, how he managed to publish and segmenting parts of his thesis and make it into several article journals. Without further ado, the floor is yours, Dr. Akhmad Habibi.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'm so honored. I feel very grateful for being invited as one keynote speaker today. I think that this is the first sessions of our sessions, conducted by ADEC, the Rocky Road to PhD. So I feel really, proud as your students. So Dr. Farrah is my supervisors, actually. I feel blessed to have worked with you during my PhD journey. And without you, without Dr. Rafiza also as my second supervisors, I think it's impossible for me to get my article published in some journals. Okay, let me share my screen. Can I share my screen? Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
This is my screen, actually. Okay, the title is The Rocky Road to PhD, How to Publish While Studying. I guess all audience, all participants today are PhD students that might have difficulties in publishing their articles in journals. So I've got tips and tricks, of course, to publish multiple articles in journal, in a required journal, maybe indexed by Scopus, maybe indexed by ISI or Web of Science. So, but first, I'd like to tell a brief story of mine. When I first came meeting Dr. Farrah, and she said that my proposal at the time back in 2018, so first I met Dr. and said that your proposal level is not what UM actually facilitate. So that from that moment, I did my self-learning. I watch YouTube, I Google, I read a lot. I read almost 10 articles a day to grasp the idea of the weaknesses of my proposal. I still remember the weaknesses of my proposal at the time was about the statistical analysis. I just used standard deviation and mean at the time offered to Dr. Farrah as a mixed method proposal. There is a qualitative. I guess it was enough, but I think Dr. Farrah said so. So I just kept learning about at the time about structural equation modeling. So I watch YouTube, I read a lot of articles about statistical analysis, and luckily, and then eventually we managed to publish around 7 articles. It's not actually while I'm doing my PhD, it's a part of our work, part of the thesis. While I'm doing PhD, I think I managed to get more articles published in the top tier journals. So that's a brief. This is the actually part of our what our research. Me and Dr. Farrah and Dr. Rafiza as my second supervisors. The first one published by Asian EFL journal. At the time, it was Q2, Doctor. It was Q2 in Scopus, but I don't know right now the status of this journal in Scopus. The title is Preparing Future EFL Teachers for Effective Technology Integrations. What do teacher educators say? It's all about technology integrations in English language teaching. So published by Asian EFL 2019. I submitted in 2018, so it takes 1 year to publish. The second one, it is data journal. Actually, we publish our data. This will be my focus today. So it's kind of a different thing to discuss because chapter 4 is a common thing. Yeah, chapter 4, the findings. I think the audience might have attended many seminars, trainings, or maybe workshop in order to publish our findings in journal. But about data, maybe it's kind of a limited trainings, how to manage to publish data in journal data. So I think it's the simplest way, the easiest way, because each data is unique, so that we can publish our data in chapter 3 to reputable journals. So this is the Elsevier-based journal. It's a data in brief. Yeah, we published in 2020 with Dr. Farrah. And number 3 in Sage Open, just published actually last month. Yeah, this factors affecting Indonesians pre-service teachers' use of ICT during teaching practices through TPB, or the theory of planned behavior. So it is an ISI journal with impact factor more than 1.5, if I'm not mistaken. Now, but this one is paid journal. We need to pay amount of academic publishing charge, around 800, but we get 50% discount, so we just pay 400 USD. Number 4, it will be published in May 2022 in Saje. The title is Pre-Surface Science Teachers Actual Use of Technology, TPACK or TPAC, and PBT, or the Theory of Planned Behavior. So this one took almost 2 years. So we submitted in 2019, yeah, almost 3 years, and will be out in 2022 at the end of the May. I got the email already. So number 5, the qualitative report, Scopus Q1, also ISI, factors affecting ICT integrations during teaching practices, a multiple case study of 3 Indonesian universities. As I earlier mentioned about my method, mixed method, so the part of the findings we publish is the qualitative data, the interview, the focus group discussions we conducted to support the quantitative data. The number 6, yeah, this is by Springer, published in Springer. The journal name is Education and Information Technology, the role of TPAC in affecting pre-surface language teacher ICT integrations during teaching practices, yeah, Indonesian context. Now, this one was out in 2019 by Springer. It's also an impact factor journal with the impact factor of 2.5 above. And number 7, etc. We are still having a few articles under review, yeah, by British Educational, by Wiley. I forget the name of the journal. So another in Elsevier also. So this is the publications. Me, Dr. Farrah, and Dr. Fiza as my second supervisors managed to publish. So now let me jump to the main focus of my discussions. Okay. This is the part of publications that I would like to share with you guys. Yeah. So in brief, we can publish chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4. So I'm gonna skip the chapter 4 actually, because I think all of us here have been attending many seminars, articles about how to publish findings in good journals. I will focus my presentations today for the chapter 2, yeah, literature review, and chapter 3, data. Okay, let me start with the chapter 2. Okay, this is the simple definitions of a systematic literature review that I quoted from a researcher. So a systematic literature review, or SLR, identifies, select, and critically appraises research in order to answer a clearly formulated questions. One of the many approaches in the systematic literature review is preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta-analysis. I think if all of you here can look for the sources, you can visit prisma.com as the formal website of this approach. Then you can find a detail about the informations, how to manage to publish or how to manage to write literature review articles. So the Prisma is one of the approaches. This one is the step. Before that, I'd like to share you all a video, yeah, about literature review. Let me share it first.
From a distance, the steps of a systematic review look pretty basic. To answer a question or a series of questions, you just gather all the information that exists, filter out the information that doesn't apply to your question, then combine it all together into a report about existing evidence and research gaps. But let's take a closer look. Systematic reviews follow a rigorous scientific process. It takes more than a few steps to comprehensively gather, combine, and evaluate existing evidence. First, make sure you're asking your questions in the right way. It's possible your questions are too broad. So many people have tried to answer your questions in so many ways that you'll never gather all of the evidence. Or maybe your questions are too narrow, and there's no research or not enough research to synthesize. That's why the first step of a systematic review is prepare your topic. Take a quick look at the available evidence to make sure there's enough research to address your question. Then, craft a question that's clear and specific enough to help you decide what kind of studies should and shouldn't be included in your search. Once you've prepared your topic, you can go on to step 2, search for studies. Of course, you'll go to electronic databases to find published articles related to your question. But to find all of the evidence related to your questions, you might have to look in some unconventional places. Once you've searched everywhere for evidence, you can move on to step 3, screen your studies. In this step, you take a careful look at what you've gathered, removing evidence that doesn't answer your question or has research methods you want to avoid. Once you've sifted through all your evidence, it's time for step 4, extract the data. Take the evidence that's left and pull out the information that will help you answer your question. Once the data have been extracted, you will need to carefully combine and analyze what you found. This is step 5, analyze and synthesize your evidence. If you're conducting meta-analysis, this is where you'll use statistical tools to combine your data. You'll also look at your studies to evaluate the quality of the research and check for bias. Once everything is prepared, you'll combine all of your evidence together to summarize the research that addresses your question. Now you're ready for the last step, report your findings. Once you've decided what the evidence has to say about your question, turn your conclusions into a report that describes the steps you took and what you discovered. Then share it with anyone who cares about your question. Want to answer more questions with a systematic review? Don't forget the steps. Prepare your topic, search for studies, screen studies, extract data, analyze and synthesize evidence, and report your findings. There you have it, the steps of a systematic review. Enjoy!
That's a 3-minute video about systematic literature review. So this is commonly in part 2 or chapter 2 of our thesis or dissertation. So this is the steps actually that has been explained by the video. First one, identify, develop, conduct, select, appraise, extract, and synthesize, write, and publish. So this is the sample of paper of literature review that I like to share. This one, the title is Augmented Reality Applications for K-12 Education, a systematic review from the usability and user experience perspective. So I will jump to the method here. I think all the background, all of you guys can learn by yourself. Now this one is the simple thing to read. There are 4 parts here. The first one is identifications, screening, eligibility, and included. This one is from Prisma that I previously mentioned. Now this one, the part of thesis that we can publish in chapter 2. So identifications based on the topic, we conduct search in the website that we want to get the article. For example, here, Scopus, IEEE, ACM, and Web of Science here. So the researchers got the articles about the topic from this databases. So this one is additional record identified through other source. I'm going to explain it in brief. Yeah. So, and then records after duplicates removed. So if you look for articles from Scopus, IEEE, and for example, Web of Science, there might be similar articles recorded by those databases. So we just exclude all the duplicates. Like this one. So after the duplications have been revoked, there are 543 articles included in here. And then in the screening process, records excluded based on title and abstract. So of course, we read the article and abstract first to link with our topic. If it is not in our area of topic, then we can drop the articles. We can exclude the articles. And then 213 here of the article out of the context, and the eligibility here 330. Yeah, full articles excluded 281. Yeah, this is for example, this one is the requirement for articles. So for example, simple example, the article must be in English, so that if it is not in English, you can exclude it. So there are requirements here should be fulfilled in order to study or in order to include in our systematic literature review article. So in this case, in this paper, the studies included 49 articles. So 49 articles that has been reported in this paper. This one. So I guess this one is in our chapter 2. Okay. I'm going to share my next slide about chapter 3. Now chapter 3, we can publish chapter 3 from our thesis or our dissertation. Yeah. Now this one, what we can publish in for example chapter 3 method. Yeah, we can publish data. If you build a software, we can publish software. If you build materials, we can publish the materials. If you have a unique method, we can publish the method like that. The journals are among others, data in brief, for example, in Elsevier. We have software X in Elsevier also. And then we have method X for the method. And in Elsevier, they offer also hardware X. So besides software X, they have hardware X as a platform to publish materials. So this is the cycles actually. Before I further explore the elaborations, I would like to share another video about this kind of journal. Sorry.
There are many kinds of researchers, from those who make major breakthroughs to those who work incrementally, focusing on details. Most researchers are somewhere in the middle, geniuses aiming for breakthroughs while working painstakingly to collect data, write software, create lab materials, and improve methods and protocols. Their work deserves to be shared widely and discovered, but it so often remains hidden because it doesn't have a place in traditional research journals. Elsevier has developed a range of online article types that let researchers publish the results of their work from different stages of the research cycle. The template-based submission process is simple, and the publication criteria are clear, making it easy for a scientist to get recognition. Thanks to these new article types, other scientists can easily find and reuse a researcher's data, software, materials and methods, keeping the whole research cycle alive. For example, data articles make it possible for researchers to discover and access data through descriptions which are peer-reviewed and citable. When Chinese researchers sampled the transcriptome of the largest amphibian in the world, they chose to publish in the journal Data in Brief. A full record of the salamander's active RNA, valuable data for conservationists and phylogenomics researchers, is now available online and easy to find. Software articles describe software and link to a preserved version of a code. When American researchers launched Skinware 2.0, a major update to their well-known robot skin interface software, they published it in Software X, making it possible for other researchers to access and reuse it, not only today, but also far into the future. Materials and methods articles, which are published in the journals like Methods X, help researchers share and get credit for the improvements they make to scientific recipes, such as reusing and adapting existing techniques for detecting antibodies. In their method article published in Methods X, Italian researchers describe how to detect antigens associated with multiple sclerosis, saving other researchers a lot of time in the lab. The same goes for Hardware X, the newest journal in the program. It publishes articles on open source designing, building and customizing of scientific infrastructure. The journals Data in Brief, Software X, Methods X and Hardware X are fully open access, so articles are available to everyone. Whether you're making major breakthroughs, incremental steps or something in between, consider supporting other researchers by publishing your data, software, methods and materials with journals from the Elsevier Research Elements program. You've done the work. Now get the credit.
That's the video about data journal, software journal, materials journals, and method journals that we can submit within chapter 3 of our research. Okay. So to make it simple, yeah, I would like to share you the steps to publish in one sample of the journals, data in brief. We publish our part of the thesis with Dr. Farrah and Dr. Rafiza in data in brief. Yeah, it's a very simple article, but the most important thing, the valid and reliable data that we can include in the paper. Yeah, so the first one is prepare your data. Can be from pilot study or main data collection. It can be various. It can be qualitative data, statistic data, yeah, with regressions or ANOVA and etc., or any data that you can submit within the paper. And then the raw data like a questionnaire, Excel, Word, SPSS, and etc. And then the analysis like exploratory factor analysis, or maybe you do the analysis in the qualitative like thematic analysis, the coding. You can submit the data of your coding or the transcriptions to data in brief. And then like also the here CFA measurement model or any data that you have been analyzing. The next step is upload your data to Mandalay. Mandalay is a platform. This is for the data in brief, yeah, published in Elsevier. So upload our data to Mandalay and then write the data format. It is in accordance with the data journal guidance that you can find in data in brief journals, and of course submit. There are a few pages of our paper at the time. I'm going to share you the paper of data in brief. Now this one. The title is The Data Sets for Validations of Factors Affecting Pre-Service Teacher Use of ICT During Teaching Practices, Indonesian Context. So there are only 7 pages of this paper. This one, the abstract, and then what we need to do is just to follow the format of the data in brief guidance, a specification table here, subject area, okay. And then we wrote our data. We wrote the experimental design, materials, and method, like that. And then this one is the data, the elaborations of the data. And then this is the method. In data article, we don't tell the findings. We don't explore the findings, discussions, and conclusions. Only the data. We just present the data in our manuscript. Only 7 pages. For the references, for example, in data in brief, we are limited to include only 20 articles for the references. So even I read one article, just include 2 or 3 references. So it's a very simple thing to do for data articles that PhD students can publish their chapter 3. So before you do your final examinations, we have already, you can publish 2 articles, systematic literature review and data. So we are not waiting for the findings. So we can publish 2 kinds of paper. Like that. There is one video, doctor, actually, to simplify the data in brief submissions, but the video is quite long, 8 minutes. But I will try to share. Do you still have time, doctor?
Yes, we still have time. Maybe for the video, we can select the one that is most important, so that we can have more time for Q&A.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna fasten the video, doctor. Yeah, just a little bit fast.
Doesn't have any audio, kah?
Audio? No, no audio?
No, no audio.
Wait.
I hear some screeching sound, but it should be okay because you turn on the caption.
Any video, Doctor?
The video is on, but the audio is not with it.
Okay, okay. So I think it's better for me to wait, Doctor.
Meanwhile,
okay, but I think if you have any questions before I share the video, maybe from the audience,
yeah.
have any?
So if you, the audience, if you have any question or something that you wanted to share, you can always use the chat feature. Just click on the chat and post your question. We hope that I can try to read, and I have probably, if it's too many questions, I just select and post a question to Dr. Habibi for his answer. Okay, you can start doing it now. Okay, this is what. Okay, there's a question, Dr. Habibi, from one Roslina. What is the content of conclusion part in the manuscript that has been submitted to Data in Brief journal?
Okay, like I said earlier, so we don't need to write conclusion, discussion, and findings. Only the data, the method to acquire the data, the analysis. So only those parts. If we write the findings, the discussions, and conclusions, it probably will result in the rejection, or maybe we need to revise our paper. So for that data in brief or method X, we don't write any findings, discussions, and conclusions for the Roslina. Yeah? So we just stop in the data analysis, the specifications of the data collections method, and data analysis. That's the three parts that we have to include, or we are allowed to include in our data in brief articles, like that.
Yeah, if I also may add to it, in the conclusion section, we can just summarize or whatever we have written in the beginning of the article. For example, you are saying that this article shows the data which can be downloaded from which databases and so on, and then it describes about the participants and so on. Okay. Yeah. There's also when I'm also one of the reviewers for Data in Brief journal. Sometimes they also wanted to know what is the findings a little bit, but do not tell the findings in detail, as Dr. Habibi said. Yeah. Save it for another article, but you can just say that from these findings, which is going to be published in the journal, okay, you can say that we can summarize that this research has successfully answered the research questions. Just briefly put in 1 or 2 sentences, right, Dr. Habibi?
Yes, Dr. Even I got one article that only 2 pages. So they strictly actually include especially discussions and conclusions in our data articles. So we just focus on the data collections, analysis, and maybe a little bit findings that, like the Dr. Farrah said before. So yeah, just that. So any data that we have, we can publish in data in brief. It's every data is unique, so that the opportunity to be accepted in data in brief is much bigger than common journals like in Elsevier's, in Sage, MDBI, IEEE, and others.
All right. Then, Dr. Habibi, are you going to share more slides, because there are already a lot of questions coming in? Do you?
Yes, Doctor. I think I will give an example how to. It is a very good video, yeah, about data in brief. So I think if you follow the format, if you follow the guidelines from the data in brief, your paper will be accepted. Yeah, this one is the video, Doctor. Can I have the time? Okay,
maybe a short time so that we can answer a lot of questions here.
Yes, Doctor. Thank you. So this one.
Graphs and figures. There are two ways you can do this. We recommend uploading them to a public repository. You can find details of supported repositories in the Guide for Authors on the journal homepage. Unsure which repository to choose? We suggest Mandalay Data, which is free to use, or you can pack your raw data into a zip file and upload it with your submission. The data will then be hosted alongside your published data article. It's important to note the submission system may be unable to accept large data files. If you've used interviews, questionnaires, and surveys, these also need to be provided. Step number 2, prepare your data in brief submission. We've templated the submission process so it's easy for you to see what information is needed. And because the template captures all the details reviewers require, the data in brief editorial process is quick and transparent. There are a few important points to be aware of when completing the template. Following these do's and don'ts will increase your chances of acceptance. Use standard English and ensure your article is easy to understand. Include all the details someone will need to reuse your data and build on your work. You're welcome to include charts, tables, figures, or any other supplementary material, but don't forget the raw data associated with these must be accessible. Don't simply copy the data section from your original research article and paste it into the template. Your data in brief article must be an original piece of work. Don't provide conclusions or interpretative insights. This article should simply describe your data. Read the detailed submission requirements in the Guide for Authors before you complete your template. Each template field is mandatory and contains a brief description of what it should contain. The article title should be clear, compelling, and an accurate reflection of the article contents. Include the word data or data set. This is mandatory. Choose a unique title that hasn't been used before. If your data in brief article is linked to an original research article, the title should not be the same. Don't use acronyms or abbreviations, and don't exceed 50 words. Most readers will use the abstract to decide whether the rest of the article is of interest to them, so this field is your opportunity to convince them to read on. Describe the data collection process, the analysis performed, the data, and importantly, its reuse potential. Don't exceed 500 words. Your keywords are important for article discovery. Try to think of all the relevant terms and phrases related to your topic and avoid repeating words used in your title. The specifications table plays an important role in providing context for your data, so each field must be completed. For example, data format captures the type of data you describe in your data article. Your data article will always be accompanied by raw data, so that wording should remain in the table field. However, if you don't have either analysed or filtered data, those options should be deleted. If your article refers to a form of data not listed, please type it in here. If you've chosen to host the data associated with your data article in a public repository like Mandalay Data, the route we recommend, then in the Data Accessibility field, you should delete the wording "with the article" and type in the name of the repository you've chosen, a data identification number and a URL offering direct access to your data. If you're uploading your data with your article, then simply delete the repository questions so only the words "with the article" remain. Additional points of your own. The 3 compulsory questions are: why are these data useful? Perhaps they reveal new information, or do they suggest a promising avenue for further research? Who can, for example, do they provide the springboard for a new approach to treatment development, or the basis for new theory development? The data descriptions section should contain a few sentences which briefly describe the actual data files in your article. Please make sure you refer to all the files, for example, figures, tables, raw data, data sets, supplemental files, etc. Then it's just a matter of completing the fields for experimental design, materials, and methods, including as much detail as possible. For example, how the analysis has been done, how the figures have been created, or how the questionnaire has been designed. Then complete acknowledgements, competing interests, and references. References are numbered in Data in Brief. Don't forget to read the instructions associated with all these fields before completing them. You can always scan previous Data in Brief articles on Science Direct for inspiration.
That's the video about how to publish in Data in Brief. A very simple video, detailed video. Just can follow if you want to publish your part of thesis in Data in Brief. I think there are some questions, Doctor.
Yes, there are some questions. Do you still have some slides to share, or can we just go?
No, no, Doctor.
Okay,
let's go to the question.
Let's get to the question first. Okay, there's a question from Amira, and this pilot, Salam Doctor, in pilot study, I only use 30 respondents. Is it okay for me to use the data? Do I have to tell that it is pilot study?
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Amira. Amira just has 30 respondents, but if you have a complex statistical analysis, I think you can try to submit your data to Data in Brief. But if not, only for example reliability tests with the Cronbach alpha, then I think it's quite hard to publish there. So I want to suggest you just store the main data, and then submit to Data in Brief for the main data. 30 respondents is quite few numbers of respondents that I guess the editors will reject the submission. So, but if you have, for example, like a fuzzy Delphi, like a exploratory factor analysis, a CFA, for example, then you can try to submit that. If I am the reviewer, maybe I will consider rejections if only 30 respondents with simple statistic. That's the note with only simple statistics.
Honest test and honest answer.
Yeah, it's a very honest answer. They're honest, then you try and waste time doing that like that.
Yes, actually, yes. 30 sample is too low. So remember, you always have to read what is the purpose of the journal. One of the purposes of this journal, Data in Brief, is to actually generalize the findings to other contexts. Okay, meaning that if you're published in Indonesia or in Malaysia, they wanted to use the Malaysian data and compare with their data, let's say in Belgium, German, and so on. So if you have only 30, it's very unlikely for you to get published unless, as Dr. Habibi mentioned, you have a very complicated methods to use. And that brings us to the next question from Mr. Badru Hamid. For publishing data in Brief, does it need to reflect validation and reliability in the paper, or no need to say so?
That's the uniqueness of data in brief. If you want to submit there, you must quote, you must include all approaches in acquiring your data, all analysis of your data analysis. So, for example, you have done validation tests like discriminant validity or convergent validity, kind of it, and you have to inform them about it. So, as I mentioned earlier, informing those informations is accepted. So no discussions, no conclusions, informing that, so that the editor can consider our submission. So we have to include this kind of statistical analysis, validations, reliability tests in our data. Just tell a story about the test. So one unique tips from me, you have to mentions the words, two words, either data or data set in the title of the article, like that.
Thank you, Dr. Habibi. Yes, I think this is something new to many of us. Actually, data in brief, hard for me to say, but usually they favor quantitative data over qualitative data. Yeah. So if you have qualitative data, we can try to submit, but we have to tweak a little bit how we frame the data.
Yes.
There's another question. Okay, there's actually a lot of questions coming in, but it's all very technical. For example, some of them ask, can you recommend some journal database where we do not have?
Can I interrupt that? There are so many data journals, like data in brief. In MDPI, there is data. The journal is called Data. In Sage, it's a very good journal. Its impact factor around 6 point something. We call it big data in Sage. And Routledge also, if I'm not mistaken, and IEEE, of course, there is also a journal. So data in brief, and big data. That's I remember.
Yeah. So but again, most of them are likely like to have the quantitative data, unless we have something unique about our research and our data. For qualitative, we can look for it. So that will be, I hope, maybe another session. There is a question, Dr. Habibi, about I guess this is more about timing. Okay, from Nurul Husna. Do you do an article after completing the thesis, or do you do this at the same time when writing a thesis?
Same time, and before writing the findings. So we wrote a systematic literature review, even not published yet. Data, also data pilot study data. Of course, while studying, we kept working on our articles. I think it's easy, I think, because if we have already got the findings, we just send the articles. Especially for the research-based PhD students, they have much time actually to write articles because not attending classes or courses.
Yeah, so that's why you need your supervisor's help, actually.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
To assist you and to consult with you when to publish. Okay, so I think in next 2 weeks, we're going to have a session with me. I'll conduct a workshop about how and when to publish. And I also talk about how to create your publication roadmap, so that as a student, you do not have to wait at least 1 year before your actual graduation.
Okay, even as I remember that informed me when we met the first time, you can drop your article already like that. So it's a very early in this very first stage of my PhD journey that Farrah always encourage and motivates me. Thank you, Doctor, to write articles in journals. So that's why we managed to publish around 7 articles within our thesis.
You have to start early. Okay, by the way, Christy Yo asking a question. This is about supervision. I don't know whether Dr. Habibi or maybe I also can answer. As a PhD student, do we have to get our supervisor's permission before submitting the articles for publishing? Or we can just send for proofread? Okay, I think, let me answer first, Habibi.
Yes.
Okay, if you are a PhD student, it is ethical for you to publish with your supervisor. In especially Universiti Malaya, it is a requirement that you must publish with your supervisor, or otherwise your article is not going to be accepted as one of the graduation requirement. Okay, so we can talk a lot about your relationship with supervisors. Some supervisors are good, they can mentor, some maybe not. So there's a lot of things there, but for graduation purpose, you must publish with your supervisor. So it is very important, actually. The role of supervisor is actually to help you, get, especially being a critical reviewer of your article before you submit to proofreader. Okay, so let your supervisor read your draft of article and then advise you, you do the corrections, and once both of you are okay, you're happy with your draft, you can submit to proofread. What do you think, Dr. Habibi?
Yes, I couldn't agree more with your opinion. So the one simple thing that we should remember is communication. We have to build communications with our supervisors. Every progress, every detail of our research should be informed, should be discussed with our supervisors. That's my answer.
Okay, let's take one question from one Roslina. Dr. Habibi, based on your experiences, how many percent for a manuscript to be accepted when it was asked by the editor to make major and minor revisions? Please share your experiences on that.
Yeah, as a reviewer, and Dr. Farrah is also a reviewer in Data in Brief, I think the percentage of being accepted in Data in Brief is much higher than the common journal, because every data is unique. Yeah, every data have their own strength, and I think maybe more than 50%, if you follow the guidelines, if you follow the rules of Data in Brief, the data will be accepted by the editors. The reviewers also, we cannot blame any data, right? Because data is a kind of empirical things to be discussed with. I cannot blame, for example, the Farrah data, because I don't do the research. You do the research, so that you have the uniqueness of the data, so that the percentage of Data in Brief, for example, and data article is much higher than any other kinds of journals like that.
Yeah, provided that you follow exactly what they want. And there are some tricks, I think, we can apply when you publish with especially Data in Brief. Okay, let's take, before I forget, just to let everyone know that we really look forward to your input or feedback about our session. And don't forget to, if you look at the chat room, you can, chat feature, you can see Shida have posted a link for your feedback. You can tell us what other topic you want us to explore, and we'll try our best to offer the topic to you. Okay, let's take one from, I hope I pronounced correctly, V. Piores. Okay, how about the methodology to pure qualitative? Does it have any difference in terms of publishing methods compared to quantitative? I think this is a generic question. It's not really tied to Data in Brief. What do you think, Dr. Habibi?
I have one of my colleagues that the data is qualitative, actually, and it was successfully accepted by Data in Brief, even though the percentage is much lesser than quantitative data. So what you need to do is just to upload your qualitative data. It's quite difficult if your qualitative data is in foreign language, not English. So that's, you need to translate that into English, and then there are many pages, of course, the transcription, right? So what you need to submit is the uniqueness of your method, how you acquire the data. For example, the data is acquired by an informal interview, like a dinner, lunch, like that. So it's a unique thing to include, not a formal interview. And the data analysis, like you use cake dust or computer assisted qualitative data analysis, like N5 or macros or Atlas DI and other stuff. and you can actually publish. But like Dr. said before, that the qualitative data is a bit tough, it's a bit difficult to publish in data entry, but it's still possible because I just helped one of my friends for her PhD graduations in data entry, and data is qualitative. Doctor.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, we are going to the end of the session. There's a question from Adi, Adi. Can Dr. Habibi share the template writing an article? I think if I can mention here, as there is a template from the Data in Brief website, but we actually have established a Telegram group. Dr. Habibi can share the link with you. I hope, Dr. Habibi, not the template, but just the website where you can download the template. Okay, thank you so much to Dr. Akhmad Habibi for your precious time. Yes, I think there's a lot of interest.
I'm sorry, Doctor. I'm sorry because I have to leave earlier. I need to attend a seminar proposal examination. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you all. And maybe for every questions that cannot be answered into the sessions, you can email me at ahmadhabibi@unja.ac.id. You can find the email within my articles published in the journals or in Scopus. Just search Akhmad Habibi, then you can find the Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and other stuff. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the committee to make this occasion happen. Hopefully that we can meet in another occasion, another opportunity.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. And to the audience, just an announcement that we are going to have 2 more sessions. Next week, we are going to have a session with Dr. Nitya, who is currently Assistant Director at Jabatan Pendidikan Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur. She completed her PhD within 3 years' time. 3 years and 4 months, actually. And she is a part-timer at the time. Okay, and she managed her time well, and she also get publications more than what is needed in Universiti Malaya. So we are going to have that session next week. If you are interested to want us to explore more topic, do let us know. And I'd like to thank everyone. And let's go back to our Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Khalid. Back to you, Khalid.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Farrah. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we have finally come to the end of our sharing for the day. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speaker, Dr. Akhmad Habibi, and our moderator, Dr. Farrah Dina, for taking time off their busy schedule to be here with us and share their knowledge. I also like to thank all participants for actively participating into the events. This event will not be success without all of you. Before you take your leave, kindly ensure that you complete the feedback form for today's event. The link can be found in the chat function. Okay, you may leave the webinar session after filling up the feedback form.
There's a question about where to get the Telegram link. Where can we get it, Khalid? The Telegram link.
Actually, the Telegram link was sending through email.
Yeah.
Include in the email before.
Yes, yes. You can check your email when you registered for the session, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, don't forget next week we have a session, and the next 2 weeks with me about publication roadmap.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Farrah. We look forward to see you in the upcoming session. For our upcoming webinar on 11 December, the topic will be on how to stay on track while studying. And lastly, I would like to apologize for any shortcoming or technical difficulty for this event. Thank you and have a great weekend. Actually, for the next our webinar, all the participants can do a registration by now. We already opened the link.
Should we have the poster come?
Recording stopped. This decision will be recorded and shared. Recording in progress. Now, let me introduce our director for today.